Yeah.
We're recording. Let's be proper.
Yeah, let's be
Yeah,
proper.
because usually when we're not recording, we're speaking Norwegian, and now we're speaking English, which is good. Because
Oh, are we going to do this in English or Norwegian?
No,
I
English.
told
obviously.
Marco we will do it in English.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hello, kind sir. I have lots of money in my Nigerian bank account, and it would be very easy to transfer this money to you.
Yeah, nice. I think we all have those uncles in Nigeria, huh?
Oh, yes. So, Katrina, give us sort of like a rough intro. Why you can introduce us, like why the three of us are here, and you.
So Marco, we do this every Thursday, but you couldn't do it on Thursday, so you are invited today. And
Yeah,
we have
thanks.
done this for like 5-6 weeks now. And Geir and Brendan, they are coaches and they help people. And Geir, I think I will leave the word to Geir because he can explain why this group actually exists. He created a Facebook group called Help Without Total Reward, and he has a good explanation to why.
Okay.
Well, I might have. The idea was that I've been part of lots of groups and people want me to speak here and there and everywhere. And a lot of the stuff I see on, especially Facebook groups, etc., is a lot of people trying to push help or give freebies in order to get something back, like a marketing ploy, right? And I got a little fed up with that because I do a lot of helping of random people off the street and without any thought of reward, just because it's good practice and it's helping the society and it's helping individuals and it's good karma. So I just do it. And then I thought, as a sort of a counter reaction to a group that I'm in, which is 19,000 people and everybody trying to pitch their thing and being very American and, you know, give away only to get something back type of thing. And I thought, well, fuck that. I'm gonna do the opposite. And then I created this group called Help Without Thought or Reward, which is actually a play of what's happening in Star Wars 1, when Anakin was seen and he says he gives without thought or reward. So that's the basis for the group. And within a couple of weeks, it became like 700 people. And
Wow.
it's a lot of inspiration in there. And people are giving everything from food recipes to all kinds of advice in life and, you know, helping people randomly. And there is no catch with any of that help. It's just pure help. So that is the basis of the group.
Genuine.
And then Catherine, the amazing Catherine, is the reason why this webinar is here, because she's more amazing than anybody we put on the show, because without her, there would be no webinar.
Nice.
So that is the sort of the birth of this. It's she. So she invited me and Brendan. She's a neighbor of Brendan, so that's the connection right there. And then we have been doing this with a lot of people, and among other Olympic swimmer and one of the most famous mental trainers of the UK, and many other people, and now you. So
Nice.
this is it's just you know, us sitting down in the cafe talking.
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
But it just keeps getting better week after week. So this is much better than last week already. So give us everything you got, Marco.
Yeah, and I mean, I just told Catherine before you guys came on, and as usual, I'm completely unprepared for anything I go into, so I have no clue who you are.
Nice.
And then she gave me a little spiel of who you are and what you do, but I would like you to say that, because I like to hear, and also everybody who's hearing this would be interested, or seeing this is interested in who you are and what you do. So we can actually start off on that, I guess.
Well, yeah, I used to be a basketball player, but
how tall are you? How tall are you?
I'm not that tall. I'm only 193, 6'3". But
That's pretty tall.
This is not a low basket, because this is from a game. I can try to show you on my phone. If you can see it, we'll see. This is how I used to do it. So the white guy who steals the ball, that's me. And then this yellow dude is trying to come and get me. Let's see. So,
all right.
So I used to jump. I used to jump high enough. So it's not about the height, it's about how high you jump and how quick you do it.
Yeah.
No, so I used to play, but what happened when I was 18 and coaching some younger girls, there was this father of a girl who was working in a school who asked me if I could take some substitutional lessons at his school, because he said that the way you talk to the girls as a coach is a very correct way to address kids. You give them you respect them, you take them seriously, at the same time you demand something back on how they should behave towards each other, how they should play the game. So he asked me if I could come and do some substitutional lessons at his school, because he said that I think some of the guys, especially the minorities, need a role model like you to look up to. So that's how it all started. When I was 18, 19 years old, I took some substitutional lessons as a teacher. First I was an assistant, and then they gave me some lessons to deal with alone. And so my first year as a substitute teacher, they gave me more and more responsibility. And I also connected, especially to the guys who were outgoing, frustrated, angry, with a lot of luggage. And I used to take them, I used to talk to them in the lesson, in the free time, in the breaks, instead of sitting with grown-ups. I was more interested to understand the story of why he was so mad or unfocused in the lessons. And within the first year as a teacher, I ended up getting a lot of results with the boys, especially, that were so frustrated and always colliding with my colleagues. Because of course, when you have a grown-up who at one point gets mad at you because you're frustrated, then they get into this bad tango, and it ends up with this kid being more frustrated, kicking a chair, and then threatening the teacher, and then get kicked out of school for 3 days. And if you ask this person, for example, instead of getting frustrated in front of the class and humiliating them in public, I would always wait till the breaks and then call them back and ask them, what happened? Why were you so mad at me? And then when we were alone, he would explain, well, it's not you. I'm just frustrated about my father. What happened with your father? Well, he got drunk this weekend again, and I had to fight with him. What do you mean fight? Well, he attacked my sister and my mother, and I had to, knock him out. Like, what? You knocked out your father? Yeah, he was so drunk, And if you're like 14 years old and you have to protect your little sister and your mother from your drunk father again, which is for him a typical weekend, it's very strange for me as a teacher to expect for him to be focused and ready to go on Monday morning, which I found was very, very unfair to these kids. So when you started talking and getting those stories, I started to try to build bridges between my colleagues and these kids, because they needed us to understand instead of getting frustrated at them. And I think there's no kid in the world who would like to be frustrated or get pissed or get violent. It's just a reaction of a story that we don't understand. So that's why I got more and more interested in these stories. And I also started to get more and more results with these kids. And a lot of my colleagues had to end up coming get me to calm them down, because they were so frustrated in others' lessons, which was very interesting, because I was one of the youngest teachers with less experience than most, but I still had the interest and the relation to help them. So I made those rules that I still keep, and it's one of the most important rules when you work with kids or work with people in general, is that you have to understand that people has a tendency to listen more to people they like than those they don't like. So it's always about the relation, to build this fundamental relationship between two people, so that the communication will work. And we will always, both listen better and try to understand what you're saying. If you don't like me and I don't like you, I'm not even trying, because I'm more interested in why you're so stupid than what you're saying. So it's the way. So it's this basic rules when it comes to working with kids that I think a lot of people need to remember. So another rule is that we have to understand that my demands can never overcome. My demands have always to match the relationship, the quality of the relationship. So you can be as strict as you want as a teacher, but you need to build the relationship first, so that when you ask a kid to calm down or sit down, they are motivated to do so because you have the relationship. But if you don't, they will get more frustrated, and you will be the trigger for them to get more angry. So when people ask me, well, are you always positive and kind? I said, yeah, but I can also be very strict, and I can be as strict as my relationship allows me to be. But I need to build that foundation first and invest in the relationship. So it always comes down to the same basics. It's build relationship, make sure that the kids you work with know that you like them, that you want to help them, because you're genuinely interested, and then you can start demanding and push them in the direction that can be uncomfortable, but they know it's safe because they trust you. So yeah, I learned a lot of those things the first year in school, and I still follow those basic rules, and they have a tendency to help me. And the last one is, of course, it's not me who makes the change, it's them. But I need to be a smart facilitator and maybe also a good motivator. But at one point, I have to understand that it's not me doing the change. I can only be coaching. I'm the coach on the sideline, and they have to do the work. So, which means when they get the results they get, it's them who needs the credit, not me. And a lot of people working with kids who get results, they have a tendency to be proud of the results they made, and forget that it's not you, it's them. And you need to put the credit where it belongs. Because I have a tendency to see that every time we fail with kids, we have a tendency to blame them, and then we forget to take the blame as a grown-up. So yeah.
You know
nice.
What? I have a task for you. There is a country that needs your help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the US. They need some help with police brutality, and I think you can be the catalyst for helping that.
Well, I think there's a lot of things we need to change in different countries, but one of them is the culture. I mean, I have seen the police brutality culture, and of course, that's a reaction of the way you school the police. If you always make the public dangerous and scare the policeman to think that everybody who puts their hand in the pocket wants to kill you, of course you will shoot first. And that's basically the training they have, because they are trained to survive. And I understand that when you're afraid and you fear, then the trigger is going to be there. At the same time, when somebody makes the mistake of shooting an innocent person, they are so protected that they get away with it. So of course, if I shoot first and get away with it, I'd rather do that than risk to be shot myself. I mean, and that's the basic culture that I think it's not just the policemen, it's the system, the way they are raised, the way they are trained, that makes this problem a problem. It's not always about race, it's about fear.
One thing you were saying about these kids and school, I've worked as a Montessori teacher for 10 years, and it's get back to this anecdote of the father complaining, I can't understand my son. I can't understand my son. He just won't listen to me. I can't understand my son. He won't listen to me anymore. I can't understand my son. He won't listen to me anymore. Oh, I thought if you wanted to understand him, you should listen to him. And just silence.
Oh. Yeah, but I mean, I've seen another anecdote also, which is, I can't understand your son. You have to talk to him. Because when he doesn't work, it's not your son anymore, it's her son. And then when he wins the championship, it's your son, right? Look how proud I am when my son made it to the finals. So I remember my father did that several times. When we screwed up, he could come home and say, see what your son did? He could tell my mother, and I would think, I'm not his son anymore. What happened? So yeah.
So actually, Brendan is wearing this bracelet with the "Be More Interested" on. I think you're still wearing it, right? That's
every day.
Be more interested.
It's just something that this is actually it's one of I have 3 armbands, and it's the only 3 things that I follow, and it's something that I teach my kids. So I say to my kids every day, it's like, I say, there's one that's 8 and one that's 12-year-olds. And this morning, the 8-year-old, I said, hey, remember at school, be, and she finished the sentence, more interested. And I think that we have to give more kids the actual tools on how to be more liked at school.
Yeah.
I think we have to teach them communication skills. I think we have to teach them how to get friends. And how to get friends is this idea of asking your friends, like, so what did you do yesterday? And what was that like? And what was fun? And teach these kids like really, really simple techniques that I didn't learn until I was about 30 years old. And I meet still some 40-year-olds that haven't learned these techniques. It's if you want to be liked in a circle, it's like you should be a little bit more interested. And then I mean, everybody knows the opposite. We know these colleagues that we meet at the Christmas parties, and it's like, I got to tell you all about my life. And it's like 45 minutes later, they're still going on. So.
Yes, but Marco, I have been listening to your one of your webinars, or it was on YouTube, but you have been talking about the same about your Sarah, was that her name, and she was coming home complaining. Can you tell that story?
Well, yeah, it was one of the first days after she started in school, because she was never complaining when she came home from kindergarten, because we were always having conversations about what she did that was nice for other people, which is the question that I'm inspired of asking after how my father helped me focus and refocus through sports. He used to ask me two things. He asked me, how did you make your team better? And he asked me, are you proud of your own effort today? Did you give it all? And those two questions were fundamentally the only questions he asked me through whole my career. And I ended up playing national team basketball top division, and so did my brother. So he had 2 out of 3 sons who took it all the way up to the elites. And he never asked us about the results. He never said, did you win? Or he never asked me how many points I scored, which is the most asked question in a sport conversation between parents and kids. How did the game go? Did you win? And that's the question he never asked, because he wanted us to focus on all the more important stuff than the results. But my mother she wasn't really aware of what she did by asking, how did it go? Did you win? And if I said no after I already lost the game, but I wasn't really down, because my father was always good at picking me up, saying, as long as you gave it your best and you was a good teammate, I'm proud of you. You should be proud of yourself, and you can always have that as a what do you call it? The trøstepremie, comfort. You know, that's your comfort after a loss. You can be proud of your effort and being a great teammate, which is the main reason of playing sports. And so I would come home feeling pretty okay about losing, because I played a good game and I did what I could to help my teammates and support them. And then my mom would ask, so how did the game go? Did you win? And you get the first downer because of the focus of what my mother asked me. And this is the power of questions. So then I would say, no, we lost. And then she could see on my face that I was down. And then she would try to pick me up by, asking me, but did you at least score? And then it was like, no, another no, because now the shame is complete, because you never lived up to what she expects, because that's what I thought she expected. But what I didn't know was that my mother just tried to be interested, and she couldn't care less if we won or lost. She just wanted to show me that I want to know how your life was. So this is what parents do, I think. They ask questions without being aware of what they do with the questions, how it affects the kids, and how it makes them focused and refocus on what you think is important for those grown-ups. And she would also sometimes even tell my grandmother and uncles, ask him how the game went this weekend. He scored 3 goals, and she would not be aware of what I, as a kid, understand is important for her, is those goals and to win. So when I came home, I would tell her, we won today and I scored 2 goals, because that's what she's interested in. So I would start telling her what she wants to hear, but my father wasn't interested. He would never know if I scored or won, because he was not interested in that. He was interested in, how did I play my teammates better? What did I do to make them feel better, or be a better player? So even after 18 years of top division basketball, winning 5 championships, winning the series several times, he never asked me, and he never even congratulated me with those medals, because for him it wasn't about being a good player, it was about being a good human being. Because his background is military, and he has been fighting in the Middle East for 10 years. And the reason he survived 10 years of battle is because his teammates made sure he survived. And that's why for him, the team is life or death. And it's very important to be a good teammate. So, yeah. So that's why
this idea of the power of questions, that's something that me and Geir, we work a lot with teams on this, and this idea of what can you be proud of in the team, and what can you be proud of what you deliver to the team. That's something that we do a lot on. Like, we do a lot of workshops on questioning skills and how to be better at asking questions to yourself, and how to be better asking questions to the team and to the customers. And it's this very simple tool that we can help people to discover, like, how do we ask like good questions. And one of the things that we get is like people like guys like us to come onto the course, and it's like, you know, it's like 88% of men drivers think they're way above average. It's like, and it's almost the same with questions. It's like, there's so many questions. I've been asking questions all my life. I don't need that training. You know, and even some of these questions, these reflective questions, I mean, Guy, one of these, this idea of being proud, like we talk a lot about that with teams.
Oh yeah. Now there are several levels of being interested. One is just you know, as your mother being interested. Then there is the next level up is like your father being interested. But a tip for a mother like yours would be to, when she sees that your emotion drops, she asks the question, "Did you win?" And then you go, and you can see that there is something happening there, and there's a negative happening, you know. What she could do, if she leveled up to level 4 fighter in Dungeons and Dragons, she would go, I can see that your emotion dropped. Why did that happen? Be enough interested to really figure out and ask the kid, what just happened there? I can see that you were happy and then you were not so happy. What happened? Well, you know, I didn't live up to your expectations. So what do you think my expectation is? Well, that we win. Aha. So that's what happened. You see, you can just borrow down to really finding out what really happened. And people are too timid and too scared about asking about emotions. And especially the emotions that are happening right in front of them, right when you're talking. It's like, okay,
especially
I can
the
see
negative ones.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I can see that you're shutting up now. Why? What happened right now? Well, you said blah, 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 and I think you meant so, so, so. And I said, oh, that's interesting that you thought I meant that. Let's have a discussion about that. So talking about emotions in the moment is something that is rarely done, but should be done.
This is back to Norwegians, that if you ask a typical Norwegian, like, what are you feeling right now? They don't give you a feeling. It's like, oh, this is a strange thing that's happening right now. That's not a feeling. This is really difficult for me. That's not a feeling. But like, what are you feeling right now? And there's very few men that would say, I feel hurt. I feel emotionally hurt.
But Marco, can you give? I want to, because I heard you talk about your daughter. She wasn't invited to play with two girls, but he picked up the teacher, and I think that was in right now. If you can tell that story.
Yeah, I will do that. I was just wanted to listen to those feedbacks. It was really good. But Guy, the reason my mother wasn't able to ask me that is because I think most parents want to help their child not feel bad as quick as possible. So they look for a way out. So she would ask, but did you at least score to try to lift me up? And then when I said no again, she would finally say, you know what, today you deserve to decide dinner. So, you know, that's how you try to make your son feel better instead of talking about the emotions. And I think most parents, they'd rather help you find another emotion as quick as possible so that you don't feel down, instead of asking what happened or why do you feel down. And I think that's why most guys, especially boys, grow up in a world where they don't really know how to recognize an emotion because nobody told them how to, you know, put words to the emotion. So if I'm sad and angry at the same time, nobody has told me that that's normal. And it's because sometimes you mix sadness with anger because that's easier to handle, etc., etc. And I think that's why you have a lot of violence between guys more than girls, because they are just somehow taught that men don't cry, men don't feel, just overcome, just fix it, don't talk about it. And that's the culture I think we need to, you know, break and help, especially boys, to start recognizing their own emotions. Yeah, so back to the story about my daughter. She came home after a few days in school, and she told me that today she had an experience. 2 girls in her class were mean to her. And I said, what do you mean they were mean to you? And she said, they said no. And I said, they said no to what? They said no to me playing with them, and and they're not allowed to do that. And I said, huh? What kind of rule is that? And she said, well, that's what the teacher said. The rule is nobody has, you know, we're not allowed to say no if somebody asks to play with us. So I was like, is that a rule? And that's how I got to learn that they have 2 rules in the school. And one of them is, you know, one is called the golden rule: do to others what you expect they do to you. And the second one is, if somebody wants to play with you, you're not allowed to say no. And that's the 2 tools that my daughter was presented to beginning in school, after being in kindergarten, where you have a lot of grown-ups compared to school. You know, you have 5-6 kids maximum per grown-up, and in school you have 25. So of course, when they're left on their own in the schoolyard, and the teachers take their break, they are left with those 2 rules. And of course, she asked 2 girls to play with her, and they said no, and that was illegal. So she came home to tell me that they were mean to her. So I asked her, what did you do when they said no? And then she said, well, I went and got my teacher. And I said, so what did your teacher do? And she said, well, she walked to them and she told them that they have to play with me. So how did you feel about that? Well, it was a little bit strange because I didn't really want anymore, because they didn't want to play with me either. So now the teacher, you know, the teacher talks about making everybody included. And you can just imagine the grown-up coming out from her coffee break, walking up to 2 girls sitting in the sand yard and telling them, well, Sarah wants to play with you. What do you guys think about that? Well, of course she can play with us now that you're here, you know. And then she forced them to play with my daughter. And then she walked back and grabbed her coffee and thought she solved the problem. The problem is that she taught these girls nothing about being inclusive. And my daughter even was taught how to be a victim. And coming home, even though she solved the problem, several hours later, she was interested to tell me that these 2 girls were mean to her. And that's the only experience she has now. That if she's in trouble, she has to call the teacher, and the teacher will fix the problem. So I asked my daughter, how could you have solved that instead of going and telling the teacher to help you? And she said, I don't know. And then I said, well, that's why I'm asking. So let's talk about it and see if there are several other solutions, because I have some ideas. And she goes, well, which one? And I said, well, I want you to try to find them, because you're creative. And I know that you have a lot of good answers once you start thinking about them. So let's figure out if you could if there's something else you could do next time somebody says no to you. Well, but it's not allowed. And I said, well, you know what? In my world, and I think that should be in your world as well, if somebody comes a little bit late to try to come and join the game, which will mess up the rhythm of the game, it should be legal to say no because you're late. This is normal in the grown-up world as well. So if there's no reason to say no, then you should say yes. But if you have a good reason to say no, you should be allowed to say no in a good manner, in a respectful manner, and tell that person that I would like to play with you, but not in this lesson. Let's do it next break. And then you walk up to that person the next break and you keep that promise and you tell her or him, I'm ready to play with you now. So that's how you say no. And then she said, okay. And I said, so when you get a no from somebody, which should be normal because the world in the world we will be rejected, we should handle that as well. So I said to her, how can you deal with it next time? And then she said again, I don't know. And then I asked her, are there other kids in the schoolyard that you could play with if these two girls say no to you? And then she goes, yeah, a lot of people. And I said, well, could that have been a solution for you instead of walking all the way to the teacher, which I guess is a longer way to walk than walking up to another kid, because they're probably very close? And she went, well, yeah, I could have done that. And I said, well, maybe you can try that next time. If somebody says no to you, then you walk up to the next one and you ask if they want to play with you. Would that be okay? And she went, yeah, okay. I said, fine. And then I said, but what if they say no? Well, then I could walk up to another one. I said, nice. So if you walk up to all the kids that you know and nobody wants to play with you, what do you do then? Well, then I can go and get the teacher. And I said, yeah, you could. But there's one last thing you could try. And she goes, what? I said, if nobody wants to play with you and you still want to play, how do you solve it? And she went, well, I can play alone. And I said, yeah, that's also a solution, which is not dangerous, because I know you have been playing alone for years before you got a little sister and a little brother. So you're great at playing alone. There's no problem in doing that in the schoolyard as well, from time to time. And then we made this rule. If you have to play alone 3 breaks in a row, which means the full day, that's when you should involve the grown-ups, because I think you should endure trying to play alone and solve your problems without, talking to a grown-up to help you solve it, because I think you can do it on your own. And she went, okay. So the rule was 3 breaks, then you involve the grown-ups. And then I asked her, who should the grown-up be? And she went, my teacher. And I said, no, it shouldn't be. It should be me or your mother. So wait till you come home, tell us about the problem, and then we will talk to the teacher with you, because then it's serious. If nobody wants to play with you a full day, I think that's when we should involve your teacher, and we should be involved as well. And then she went, okay. And that's how in the first grade, I put the bar so high for her to walk up to the teacher, so that it made her focus on trying to solve her own problems in the schoolyard. Now, she has been in school for 5.5 years. Every time we have these conversations with the teacher, which now is a different teacher, they tell us the same thing. Oh, she's so independent. She's so socially strong. She's always inclusive. And that's not a coincidence. It's because we've been working with these social skills since she was 6 years old, and even before she started in school. And when I asked the teacher the first 4 years, well, how are your breaks? Do you run around a lot? And she says, yeah, there's always some conflict in the schoolyard that I have to fix. And she doesn't even understand by being so, what can I say? By being so nice and kind to the kids that she always walks up to help them. I call it a misunderstood care, because she cares so much that she steals the development from them, because they don't develop by her walking up and solving the problems with them. And that's why I always, when I hear my daughter and my son fight, I always wait. I never involve myself before they come up and ask for help. And then I start asking questions. How can I help? How can you do it yourself? Because there's so many grown-ups that intervene too quickly to fix the problem for them, instead of letting them figure it out on their own. And that's how we steal the development from kids.
And this is the same as in the business world. You have managers that handle all conflicts. And what happens is that manager becomes better and better at handling conflicts. And the people who are shying away from conflicts are getting worse and worse and worse, because they have all this loss about, oh, I'm completely useless. I never handle a conflict. No, because you run to your boss and he handles the conflict for you. So the gap between that employee and the boss in the ability to handle conflict just widens and widens and widens. And there's going to be impossible for the person to handle his own conflicts. So this is why, I mean, I've been Brennan's boss at a few years back, and we had a company, and sometimes there was some conflicts, right? But usually I would let people handle their own conflicts. Like there was 2 girls in my company, and they were, for some reason, talking bad behind the other's back towards me, sort of putting the other girl in a bad light towards me, because I was the owner of the company and the CEO. And then I was a little bit tired of that. So I said, okay, now you girls, come here. into the room and I said, okay, so you told this about her, and you told this about her. Now, everything is out in the open. I'm leaving the room, and you take as much time as you want. And when you're squared up and everything handled, you can come and get me. Then I went away and had a coffee. And it was like, I don't know, 45 an hour later or something. Both were crying, coming out, oh, we handled everything. Now you can come back. So, it's not to handle the conflict for people because you diminish their ability to do so.
Yeah. You can say that about conflict, you can say that about tasks, by,
Anything.
by taking over the way, if I always dress my kids instead of letting them try and spend more time, because it takes longer if they have to do it on their own, but it's quicker if I do it in the morning. And parents do that all the time. They try to save time by doing it quicker than by letting kids develop. And that's basically in everything: cleaning your room, eating yourself, brushing your own teeth. It's all about when are you able to do it yourself, and it's always earlier than parents think.
Oh yeah.
And when is my son able to understand what goes on in his brain? Right now, my son is 5. We've been talking about how to handle his own anger, his own fear since he was 3, because that's when he started getting scared of ghosts, getting scared of monsters. And if he doesn't understand that it's all about how he thinks and how his brain functions, then these monsters will stay in his life forever until he gets grown up enough to understand that there are no monsters. But it will be so much fear by the time he understands it that it's always giving him crutches to overcome the fear by lying next to him and comforting him until he falls asleep and then leave the room, instead of him handling the way he thinks and the way he processes the fear. So now we are at the higher level. He's 5 years old. He understands that when he gets mad, it's the part of his brain that's called amygdala that is pumping the anger. And I have explained to him that you have another part of your brain, which is your cortex, the thinking brain, that can calm the amygdala down. So you can calm yourself down by talking your amygdala down. And then when he gets mad, he goes, I think my amygdala is giving me a lot of anger right now, and he starts telling me this, and he recognizes his emotions, and now he can start, and then I tell him, talking to his intellect, how can we now calm your amygdala down and make the anger problem not his personal shame, but something he can control? And he's only 5 and he's great at it. So I think it's all about, giving kids the tools as soon as we can. I was 10 years old when we left Germany to come to Norway, and I lost all my friends, all my safety net, all my relations overnight. And my parents didn't even explain to me why. They only said, we have to go. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. But they never told me that if we stay here, the German government might send us back to the Middle East. If they do, your father can be killed, which is a serious business. Now, the question is, do you want to stay here and risk that your father will be killed? Or should we go to Norway? Oh, let's go to Norway. Who cares about my soccer team? But nobody explained it to me. So I got pissed and I was mad and I was frustrated for months because of this information that was kept from me because they wanted to protect me. Well, that was not a good protection. It was the intention was good, but I was 10 years old. I could have understood if you explained it to me, but they wanted to keep me, to save me from the political problem and even the seriousity of my father being threatened to be killed if he went back to the Middle East. They wanted to keep that from me because they thought that this would be bad for me. But not understanding why I left Germany was more serious than anything else. And I've told my parents, and they have acknowledged that they didn't really understand how bad it was for me to sit on that train, not knowing why and where we were going. But I think a lot of kids leaving their safety net, refugees, they experience so much pain, and they have parents who try to, protect them by not involving them, instead of explaining to them the big picture, which could be very, very grown up, but it makes sense, and then it's easier to understand.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So we normally do this in 45 minutes, just so it doesn't get too long. And now we have reached the 45-minute mark.
But I got what do you work with? What's your job? Or
well, I've been working with troubled kids for 25 years since I started as a teacher, but and I have three different. Well, I have my own business now. I started a nonprofit organization 22 years ago, and 10, 11 years ago we had to put it down because of the the undoed in the child welfare system. So I started my own business, and I started doing lectures and team building in businesses, so I could raise a bigger amount of money than being a nonprofit, which makes me financially independent, so I can do what I feel is important. So my job is basically where I make my money is the lectures, but where I spend my time is helping troubled kids as a volunteer, because these projects that I do don't really raise money enough. Like when 1.5 years ago, one of my younger earlier youth was killed in Bergen in the Circle K killing that was in the media. He was stabbed to death by his cousin in a fight. This kid used to be mine, so I know his whole family. I know the sister, I know the little brother, I know the other little brother who was in jail. So I've been helping them a lot, and the environment around this kid. He has a lot of friends who are in trouble, and I have a project up in Grorud and one in Lørenskog where we help kids who are in trouble through a non-profit that I started now, and I have this project called Guttas Campus, which is for ninth graders, guys who are struggling in school in Oslo. So it's the Oslo school. It's a combination of private sector with money, cooperating with the Oslo schools, the commune, and we support and help 50 guys per person per year, and we follow them 1.5 years. And then I have also the nonprofit in Bergen, which is 320 kids that we put through sports several times a week. So it's a lot of young kids, helping them develop, and most of it is for me. I don't take salaries from these nonprofits because I make my own salary. Yeah.
Do you still live here in Oslo?
I live in Bergen, so I travel a lot.
Okay, so I think it'd be really cool to take some of the workshops that we use around this about teams and this idea of questioning skills and how to teach kids on being more interested, how to get like in this nice level of communication with somebody as fast as possible, empathy skills. So I think that we can just find something fun together that we could do, and we just do some workshops together, preferably with kids. I mean, there's nothing more cool than working with teenagers. I think it's the best group. It's like you see so much hope and so much passion in teenagers that I think they need like 10 times 20 times what they offer that they get at the moment. I think it's and like
and they are real. They're always real. And we have this project now in Lørenskog and in Grorud, where we have about approximately 20 kids that are stepping up to be junior leaders, and we give them a kind of internal school and how to be a role model, how to connect with people, how to take responsibility. And in the middle of November, they have this exam where we take them on a trip for the weekend. We will have the last course of how to basically some of the things you say, how to ask the right questions, how to lead kids in the right direction by, rooting for them in the right way. And these kids will end up getting the logo. This is the UNIFY logo, this T-shirt. It's basically the symbol of our nonprofit. And if you wear this logo, you have to represent the three values of UNIFY, and you have to be a role model. So even the language that you use, cursing, etc., the bar of cursing is so high. The culture of being the best version of yourself, it's part of the logo. So a lot of these kids, it's so sacred for them to start wearing this T-shirt that they're almost scared to do it because they don't want to mess up. And we also teach them that, of course, we will forgive you if you make mistakes, but you always have to clean up after yourself, which is a part of being a good leader. So these 20 kids will now start doing volunteer work when we open the gym for hundreds as soon as the corona allows it, so that they will help us to interact with a lot of kids being our mentees. So this,
okay, I'd like to join.
Yeah.
I'd like to offer and join and jump on board. And I've got an even better idea. And the Guy, this is also to you, because I wrote a post on social media a couple of days ago that a lot of the companies that we work with, I've told them, you know what, if we got in about 5 or 6 16, 17-year-old boys like right now and pitched that problem to them and said, guys, don't hold back. What's the solution? They'd come up with some really good solutions that would take you guys a full day to come up with. So I think we should grab a bunch of these and bring them in somewhere and say, guys, let's see what you got. Just like play around.
They are creative and they are very hungry and they are very honest. And
it's like if you want to make a social media campaign now, you get 12-year-old girls. You get 12-year-old girls that understand TikTok and say, go make some films. I mean, like we're not using this creativity that exists.
Yeah, and you will see in a few weeks, we will launch a video on social media where Mats Zuccarello is doing this campaign to raise money for his foundation. And the video these kids are going to do in a few weeks in this trip, when they launch that, I think the response Mats Zuccarello will get for his campaign is going to be 1,000 times better than his own video. And this is because they know how to, sell a message. And they have already said that Mats, it's still a little bit hush-hush, but Mats will do this foundation raising where he says that I will pay 1,000 crowns for each goal I score this season, and I want the businesses to do the same. Now, the kids are going to do a video saying, we will sponsor you with 1,000 for each goal, and we will work to get this money for every time you score. So they are ready to raise as much money as he's asking, and they will then send this ball to the businesses saying, if we can do it, you should be ashamed if you don't do it. And of course, ask yourself if you're sitting there as a leader of a bank or whatever, and you have kids saying, we promise to raise as much money as Mats is doing because we believe that he can make a change for kids, and the kids themselves will pay for it and sponsor Mats. I think that's going to make it a big message. Yeah.
We also started a gaming company, and we had a Formula One tournament, PlayStation and PC Formula One tournament last weekend with about 200 players. And the next tournament, we were thinking about this concept that if anybody that wants to enter the tournament, there's a fee. But the fee to play is that you have to actually help a stranger that you don't know. And we want a video clip of maximum 30 seconds of how you helped a strange person with anything at all. It could be like washing their door, or cutting the grass, or going shopping for them, or helping an old lady across the road. It can be anything. Just get them started. That guys, we can have this like the biggest tournament in Norway in gaming, but and the fee is really simple. It's not monetary. It's just you have to give something of value to somebody else.
Yeah, social value. Nice. That's perfect.
Yeah, and the thing with that is that we will pledge. Our company will pledge a certain amount of money per video that we can use on social media, because then we can take those videos and go to sponsors and say, do you want your name on this campaign? Because then we get the prize money. And if we are unable to get the prize money, we pay the money. So in any case, it's covered. So
we're gonna have like 300 kids, 300 teenagers helping strangers for the next tournament. It's so crazy cool.
That's nice. And today, this night, they started working for this borettslag, like a community for older people, and they are cleaning up. They are doing volunteer work to clean up, and these elderly are going to donate some money, which is the start of the raising of the money. So it's already started.
Now, are there a lot of gamers among those?
Some of them, and some of them are even great programmers who can, program drones to move in a certain pattern.
We need to do something together, because we're doing the gaming company to make an impact on society. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So,
We're
so,
ready.
so we need, yeah, we need to do something together. Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
also planning, like before COVID, we're planning to take programmers to Somaliland and teach
Nice.
teach teenager in Somaliland coding so
Yeah.
that they can get work. So I mean, there's so
Nice.
many opportunities around here, Guy. This is pretty cool to meet you, Marco.
Yeah, and
Nice,
also
nice. Well,
tomorrow we're going to have Amani on board, and he's building a school in Tanzania, and we're helping him do that as part of our effort to make a dent in the universe somewhere. So
nice. Yeah.
so
Well,
we
I'm ready.
need to we need to do something together. We're volunteering, and you know, we can help. So
Perfect.
we're in.
Well, you have my number and my phone, so Katrina, you can share it with these guys and just connect with me, and we will figure out something nice to do.
Yeah.
Marco, it was an honor listening to you. It was really
Yeah.
cool. Thanks.
Very, very cool.
Honor was mine.
Thank you.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Nice to,
Marco.
I'm very curious who Turil is.
Oh, she's a listener. She's somewhere in the background here. I mean, anybody
Nice.
can come and listen in. It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
We have had
That's
Brian
perfect.
in for a few times, and we have had other people coming and going. But most
Yeah.
people, I think, prefer to see the
tape.
tape recording afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, maybe people are afraid that we'll out them, which we did with Brian, but he's outable, so it's fine. But for other people, we
Yeah.
don't. So
Well, Turil, thanks for listening. Have a great evening.
okay,
Thanks, Marco. See ya.
okay.
Nice. Thanks
Ciao.
for the
Bye.
conversation, guys. Bye-bye.
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 Guide, are you still here? I just have to ask you something.
Yeah, can we stop the recording then?
Yep.
2 seconds, 2 seconds.